as I mentioned earlier, I think it's more or less 4 weeks since I was last here, because we went to the Hayes, and then at the Hayes I managed to get a cold, so I was off for 2 weeks, and then last week I was at the Rotherham Church. So I wasn't actually due to preach today. It should have been Brother Suko from Doncaster, but unfortunately he went down with COVID during the week, so he decided that it would be safer for him not to come. So today's message is entitled Jesus, the True Shepherd. The most tender picture of leadership that cares was that of a shepherd. Throughout Israel's history, shepherd or sheep herding had always been a familiar part of everyday life. Being a shepherd was good training for leading people. In fact, the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac and Jacob had been shepherds, as were Israel's greatest leaders, Moses and David. It is not surprising then that the Old Testament writers frequently used sheep herding imagery, depicting Israel as God's flock, God as her shepherd, and her leaders as God's under-shepherds. The New Testament writers also use that same familiar terminology to describe the church. But while the metaphor of a shepherd suggests tender care, it can also depict harsh, abusive, autocratic rule. The Bible refers to false spiritual leaders as well as true ones as shepherds. It is important to distinguish the voice, as we read in verse 1 of the scripture reading. It says, Jesus contrasted himself with Israel's false shepherds and calls us to follow God's voice. The voice of true shepherd, following the voice through the only door to the fold, the voice of the true shepherd. In John chapter 10 verses 1 to 6 we see this analogy. It says, Truly, truly, I say unto you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs in by another way, that man is a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the gatekeeper opens the gate. The sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. But a stranger they will not follow, but they will flee from him, for they do not know the voice of the stranger. And this figure of speech Jesus used when with them, but they didn't understand it or what it meant. In his discussion with the Jews, Jesus switched to a common Old Testament theme to illustrate who he was. Those Jews would remember Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, verse 1. They would also recall Isaiah's depiction of the Lord. He tends his flock like a shepherd, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 11. And Ezekiel, as a shepherd looks after his scattered flock when he is with them, so will I look after